Hello everyone, welcome back to another video in the Spigot series. Today I'll be teaching you how to make a NPC that is able to talk to you using artificial intelligence. So you may have seen social media recently, maybe on Twitter or TikTok, how there's something called GPT, which is a chat bot that allows you to have conversations with it, and it can pretty much talk to you about anything. It can code for you, it can rap for you, it can come up with songs for you, you can ask it about stuff and it'll explain stuff to you. One of my favorite features is that, first of all, it can code for you like I mentioned, but also you can give it a piece of text and it can summarize it to you as if you are stupid, which is pretty cool. The technology is really profound, and it's not something that you should overlook. So I recommend checking it out if you haven't already. So what I'm going to be showing you guys today, as you saw in the little intro video, is how you can make an NPC plugin that spawns NPCs, but they will actually be able to talk to you as a specific character. So what you can do is spawn a shopkeeper NPC, and that shopkeeper NPC will talk to you using artificial intelligence to come up with unique responses, and it will not speak from a script at all. I'm not going to feed it any information. Now, what makes this possible is a artificial intelligence language model called GPT-3. It's a language model that essentially understands language. It's fed, insane amount of language data from the internet and just text data so that it can understand how language works. So not only English language, but many different languages, including computer languages and stuff like that. So the point is that it's able to understand language at a really profound level, and it's able to then come up with creative results. So you can do all the things that I told you about before, like the chatbot that I told you about. It can actually generate art. You may have seen this. This is another popular thing. It's called DALL-E. It's a art AI that is actually based off of GPT-3, off the same technology, and is able to generate art for you in a unique way. So it's pretty insane. It can generate content dynamically, which has never been possible before at such a level. So this is really groundbreaking stuff, and it's pretty new. It's only come out in the past year or two. And the chatbot that you saw is actually just came out in the last 2 weeks. So yeah, things are getting crazy with AI, and it's only going to get more advanced. So I just wanted to, start working with it. I've never worked with it before, and I've always been kind of scared of it because I've never taken an AI class. And so I decided to make this plugin to teach myself how to use it. So what we're going to be using is something called OpenAI. It is a company that essentially gives you these products. They have language models that are based on GPT-3 that you can use. They're not free. They do cost, but they're 0.001 cent or something crazy like that. So I've been using it for a couple weeks now, and I have not run up a tab pretty much at all. It's only a few, maybe even $1 at most, if not that. So OpenAI provides for you APIs and libraries for you to use artificial intelligence really easily, almost for free. And they have also playgrounds for you to use so that you can, get started with it and learn about it. And the cool thing about OpenAI and the cool thing about this whole thing is that you don't actually need to know how AI works. It's all done by them, and they would just allow you to use their technology within your applications. So you can start adding AI to your applications without actually knowing anything beforehand, which is pretty crazy. But I've talked a lot, so I want to go ahead and get started with this video. I want to first give you a demonstration of how I figured this out using OpenAI, show you their playground feature, and then we're going to start coding this in a Minecraft plugin so that you can utilize AI in your plugin, okay? Hopefully you're excited for that, so let's get started. So now let me give you a quick demonstration of how to use this plugin and what we're going to be making at the end of this. First thing first, I want to choose where I'm going to put my NPC, so I think I'll put him right here, and then I'm going to do /summon NPC, and then the name of the NPC, so I'll say Billy Bob. And then now I want to give the NPC a role. So this is essentially the fictional character that this NPC will pretend to be. So what will happen behind the scenes is that I will tell the AI to pretend to be this character, and every response that it gives to me is under the guise of that character's role. So if I tell it to be a miner, it's only going to answer in a way that only a miner could answer. Like a miner as in, they're mining, people who mine stuff, not like a kid. Or for example, if they're a thief, then they may talk to you as if they're a thief, stuff like that. So what I'm going to do, so since you've already seen the miner example, I'm just going to go ahead and do a different one. I'll say let's say a shopkeeper. So now it's going to create an NPC called Billy Bob, who is a character, essentially a shopkeeper character, okay? So that will do that. So it's going to create it, give them the role, and now the AI should know that everything that happens now should be, they should act as a shopkeeper now, okay? So to begin a conversation with this NPC, we're just going to right-click it. It says thinking, and so it sends basically a message to the AI, just me saying hi. So it's going to say hi back usually. So it's say hi, hello there, how can I help you? Who are you? I am the shopkeeper in this village. I'm here to provide you with the items you need for your Minecraft adventures. What can I do you for? Or what can I do for you? So let's just ask him what he sells. What kind of stuff do you sell? I sell a variety of items such as tools, weapons, armor, food, and other resources. Do you need something specific? So yeah, he can basically have a full conversation with you as you would with anyone else who's basically, you know, acting like something. Except that the cool thing about this is because it's using AI and was trained on language and data and stuff like that, it is coming up with creative responses. So it's not, you know, pulling from a specific script. It's actually generating these responses using AI and machine learning and all that fun stuff, okay? And that's what makes this so powerful. We can essentially, using this idea, I was able to make it so that you can create NPCs that are more dynamic and they have sort of maybe even a personality. You can make them act in different ways just by how you assign them in the plugin code, as you'll see. But it's pretty cool overall. I hope you agree. And yeah, so what we're going to do is make this in this video, but I'll do a step-by-step process to show you how I figured this out and how I implemented it in the plugin, okay? So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and pull up OpenAI on the website, and I'll show you how I figured this out, okay? All right, so like I said, this is an AI from OpenAI, and on this website, they have a lot of cool things that you can play with on this playground feature. So you can come here and try a bunch of different samples. They have like stuff, you know, like summarize some text for a second grader, text to command, Q&A, English to other language, a bunch of really cool stuff, right? Very, very powerful. And when you're using it, it'll also give you the code to actually do it, which is really cool as well. So it's able to help you get started really easily. And this is how I got started, okay? So I found this playground with the chat sample, and this, as you can see, is a sample that lets you talk to AI, because right now it's using a model called davinci 3.0, and it's trained on something called GPT-3, which is it's an AI model that is basically a language model that's very, very, very powerful. Everyone's talking about it nowadays. It's basically what powers GitHub Copilot. But yeah, so this is very, very powerful, and they have they have a sample that you can use for free essentially. And I started playing with it, and let's just see what we can do. So I'll start by saying something. It asked me, how can I help you today? So I'll say, I don't know what's going on. I can provide you with information about the current world events as well as solutions for problems you may be facing. Is there anything specific that you'd like to know? What is the meaning of life? A very corny question, but we'll ask it nevertheless. But yeah, you get a cool answer. But the point is that basically you can have a conversation with this guy. It's artificial intelligence. It's really cool. And I was like, how can I use this, you know? Like I said, they give you the code so that you can start using it in your applications. And so I was thinking, like, what kind of applications can I come up with that will use this? Because this is pretty groundbreaking, where, like, I don't even know how to do AI. I haven't taken an AI class yet in college. I will next semester. But just the fact that they have an API here that you can use for very cheap is pretty awesome. And you don't have to worry about learning how AI works and training models and stuff like that, because they already do it for you. You just have to know how to use the API, which is very powerful. And that's where we're going to be doing this in this video. So what I did from there is I just, you know, up here we have some like text that tells it how to behave essentially. So the following is a conversation with an AI assistant. The assistant is helpful, creative, clever, and very friendly. So what you can do is modify this so that the AI performs in a different way. So you could say, the following is a conversation with an AI assistant pretending to be a pirate. It should talk and act like a pirate. So now if we get rid of this text that we already have, we could place it with just saying hi. And then it says, "Ahoy there, it's nice to make your acquaintance. What brings you here?" And so we can then reply with anything, of course. So, "What brings you here? I am looking for the booty." Hopefully it knows what I mean. Booty means treasure if you don't know. So then it says, "R, you've come to the right place, matey. All the booty you could ask for is right here. What kind of booty are you looking for?" And then we could say, "Gold. I knew you were a clever one. You won't be disappointed with the riches we got here. Let me get you some gold." So with this in mind, we can now essentially take this and put it into any application, like I said, but more specifically, we can put it into a Minecraft plugin, and we can create NPCs that have these roles, such as a pirate, such as a miner, such as a marketeer, such as a thief, such as a tradesman, so stuff like that, right? So I've never seen that. Maybe it's a thing already, but I've never seen it. I think that's a really cool idea. So I created it, and I want to show you guys how to create it as well. So what we're going to do now is use the OpenAI API to start doing that. So we're going to give it basically some basic directions, and then we're going to give it a basic prompt like hello, and then now it's going to be able to talk to us. So we're going to feed it responses, and then it's going to feed us back a response, and we'll have a conversation with the AI through Minecraft, through a plugin, okay? Alright guys, so now that we have an idea of what the plugin does, an example of it, and then also how to use OpenAI to essentially have a conversation with artificial intelligence, we are now going to implement this into a Minecraft plugin. So let's do this. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and set up some basic stuff. So let's go to our pom.xml and change our Java version to 17. And then let's go ahead and scroll down and go to the plugin section here. What I want to do is add a plugin that enables me to directly compile my plugin jar file into my my server's plugin folder, so that I don't have to copy and paste it every time. So that will do it right there. So make sure you click the Maven Reload button. And then furthermore, what I want to do is also install something called Citizens. It's a plugin in Minecraft that has been popular for a very long time that allows you to essentially create NPCs in the game. It's a plugin, right? And so there's also an API for it so that you can create NPCs using your plugin code itself. So you can install both Citizens on the server, and there's also an API for it so that you can use Citizens inside of your plugin, okay? So on its face, if you just search Citizens on the interwebs, you will see that it's actually not free anymore. But if you actually just go to their website, it is actually free. They're kind of like making it so that it's sort of not free so that they can raise some money. But at the same time, if you just go to their website, it is free, okay? So, okay, here's the website. I'll leave a link in the description below. But to be able to use the Citizens plugin and the API, you can just go here to, you see this part here, latest developmental and latest developmental API. These are the download links essentially where you can get those two things. So first of all, let's go ahead and get the Citizens, just the plugin itself, because you need the plugin to be able to use the API. So click that to download it. This is an ad, so ignore that. So keep that. So go ahead and take what you just downloaded and move it into your server's plugin folder, and then you'll be good to go to be able to use Citizens within your server. And for the API itself, you could download from this link that I showed you here, but you don't actually have to. There's an easier way. So if you go back to your Maven file within your plugin here, you can see that you can have dependencies. Hopefully you've used Maven before. If you have not, then check out my other videos in the series. But to be able to use Citizens as a Maven dependency, you can just copy this repository right there. I'll have a link to the code in the description below, by the way. And then after that, you can put the dependency for Citizens API. So copy that, paste. And if you're wondering where I'm copying it from, it's just actually from my own code. So that's why I'll have a link in the description below as well for my code, okay? Anyway, so once you add that dependency, go ahead and click the Maven Reload button, and it will be added. Bada bing, bada boom. And the other thing that we want is actually the OpenAI Java library. So there actually is an OpenAI library for Java. So if you just search OpenAI Java library, you will find it. Let's see, this one here. So it's by Theo Canning, so OpenAI-Java on GitHub. So this here can be used to actually use OpenAI. So we have a couple of options for interacting with OpenAI. You could use the API that they provide. So there's a web API. They also have some official language APIs for like Python and stuff like that. But since we're using Java, we have to use a third-party Java library, of course, or you can use the API. So if we just come back to the playground here and choose the chat one that we had before, then we can, get it to do stuff as we saw. But if we click view code, it'll give us the code for how to actually make that happen, right, in a application. So there's different options. There's JSON for if you're just doing a web request. There's a curl for if you're doing that in the terminal. There's Node.js, so if you're doing that basically with JavaScript and Node.js. And then there's a final example for Python, as I told you before. But there's not many other language options out there, so that's why you have this library here, okay? So furthermore, if you go to the OpenAI documentation, you will see a bunch of examples which are very nice. They teach you how to do, all the stuff that OpenAI provides, so text completion, code completion, etc. What we are doing, though, is text completion. So text completion, and then this is essentially the completions API. So that'll be under the completions endpoint. So anything that we're doing, which is in this case the chat sort of AI, this is with the completions AI using the text-davinci-003 model. So it's a model of the completions API. Or right? So there's different models, of course, but we're using the latest one, which is davinci 3, okay? So if you want to just, if you know HTTP and how to make HTTP requests on an application, then you could, of course, just use it by making a post request to this link here. Otherwise, you have to use a library, okay? And so I chose to use the Java library because it's easier, right? It's built in directly into Java classes and objects and stuff like that for you to easily work with. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and use this OpenAI Java library. So I'm going to go ahead and install it now. So if I go back to my project, so we don't need to add a repository for that just because it's part of the Maven Central repository. So it's essentially built in, you can think of it as. And now to add it, let me just copy this off my screen. I just searched it on Maven Central and found it, but this is what it is here. This is the dependency for the OpenAI Java library, okay, for GPT-3. So go ahead and load that, and that's going to import that. So now you can use it in your project. So once we are ready to use OpenAI within our plugin, we can go ahead and reference this library here, okay? It's going to be really awesome and really easy to use. So yeah. So if you want further information on how to use this library, I'll leave a link for it in the description below. Okie dokie, so the final dependency that I want to add for this project is actually just the Adventure library. It's essentially just a bucket library that lets you do stuff within your plugin very easily. So you can, send messages really easily. You can send action bars, send boss bars, play sounds, and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool library, so I do recommend you check it out. But the reason that we're going to be using it within this project is actually just for one thing, sending action bars. It's pretty easy to do, so I'm going to go ahead and add that, import it, and now we should be able to use it. And that's all the dependencies we need, okay? So what we want to do now is go to our conversationals main class here and go ahead and add whatever we need. So the things that we will need in this class are simply the setup for the Adventure library and also setting up the Citizens API. So let's go ahead and get that done. So for Adventure, you can find all this information on their website. I'll leave a link for that in the description below, but I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste that. That will do that. And then inside of your onEnable method, you'll simply do this.adventure is equal to bucket audiences.create this. So that will bring in the Adventure library. If it doesn't exist, then it's going to throw an error, okay, when you try starting up the plugin. Here's another piece of code for the Citizens library or API, whatever you want to call it. That will make sure that it's actually loaded into your server so that Citizens is available. And if it's not available, it will log a message and disable your plugin so that you can't use it, because our plugin requires Citizens to actually work, right? That's the main component, is NPCs. So that will set up in a Citizens essentially. And then furthermore, we'll just have some more logic for registering Citizens traits in our commands and our listeners as well, okay? We can go ahead and get rid of our onDisable method here. By the way, if you're curious on how to actually use Citizens, it was my first time using it as well, but if you are also new to it, you can find more information on their wiki. So if you go to the website and then click the wiki link here, you can find some, some decent information on how to use Citizens and how to, implements the API inside of your plugins. I use this myself, so hopefully you shouldn't have any trouble either. I will eventually have a separate video on how to use Citizens specifically, so stay tuned for that. So if you go down here and click API, this will teach you how to use the API. I'll have a direct link to this in the description below as well. This will give you some code, some sample code for how to use the API within your plugin. So hopefully that will help you as it helped me, okay? All right, so the first thing I want to do is set up some basic packaging here. So we're just going to go ahead and create a commands package, a listeners package, and a utils package. All right, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and create a new command class. So new Java class. So we're going to call this command summon NPC. So summon NPC command. And then we're going to implement command executor. Boom, 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 return true. And the way that we want this command to work is we want to have them run the command, give the NPC a name, give it a role, and then we're going to spawn a new NPC with that name and with that role, okay? So that's what this command will do, essentially create the NPC that they will be talking to, okay? So let's get a basic template for that going. So if sender instance of player P, import player by the way, then go ahead and do some basic validation. So make sure that they provide two arguments, one for the NPC name and the other one will be the role of the NPC. So if args.length is less than 2, then go ahead and do sender, or we can do p at this point. So p.send message, you must provide NPC name and role. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and return as well. So return true. Therefore, the code will not continue from there. And then what we want to do is at this point in the code where my cursor is, the args have been checked. So there are two arguments. So we can do string name is equal to args 0 and string role args 1. And now let's go ahead and create our NPC. So we'll do NPC, import NPC, and that's actually going to be from citizens, not from bucket. So NPC is equal to citizens API, citizens, how do you spell that? Citizens API dot get NPC registry dot create NPC. Now we can specify the entity type. So entity type, and we have all these different types of mobs and entities within Minecraft. So we're going to do just so that, we'll do a player. So a player that represents an NPC, right? And then now we need to give it a name. So the name will simply be the one they provided, of course, right? So there we go. So now it should create an NPC that looks like a player with that name. And then we want to go ahead and actually make it appear. That will create it, but it won't actually spawn. So we want to do npc.spawn and then give it the location to spawn at. So we're going to do at the player's location. So player.getLocation, and that should spawn the NPC there. Okay. And then after that, we're just going to send them a name confirming what they just did. So NPC created with a name Bob and with a role miner. They will now have conversations with you as a miner. Okay. So that will do that. We still have something else we need to do. We need to make it so that the NPC has a trait added here. So now we're at the part where we need to create an NPC trait for our NPC within Citizens. And this is a feature of Citizens. So first, let's just go ahead and rename this utils package to traits, actually. So traits. There we go. So what we want to do is create a new trait, and I'll explain it along the way. So we're going to have this called convo trait. And a trait within Citizens is a class that you can essentially assign to a NPC whenever you create it that gives it a certain trait, so a certain ability perhaps. So it gives it some sort of attribute that makes it act differently than any other regular NPC. So you can give it, you can make the NPC store information within the trait. You can have methods within the trait that make the NPC do things. You can have event listeners within the trait. So let's say whenever you hit an NPC, the event listener within the trait can listen to that and then perform some logic based on that event listening that does something corresponding with what the trait does, right? So in this case, as an example, this is a convo trait, so you can expect this trait to make an NPC have conversations with you. If you had a trait such as a fart trait, then you can expect the NPC to have the ability to fart, okay? That's exactly what it sounds like, and that's exactly what it is. A trait is essentially an ability that you can assign to an NPC within Citizens, okay? More information on their docs here. So if you just go to creating a trait, Traits are persistent, attachable objects that are linked to an NPC and provide specific functionality. This can be anything from a custom AI to a simple talking trait. So we're doing the former, or the latter rather. We're doing the latter, which is a simple talking trait. So the difference is that we're using artificial intelligence behind the scenes, which is going to be really cool. But yeah, more information here if you're curious. Hopefully I explained that well enough. A trait is essentially a object that you can add onto an NPC that gives it some functionality. Okay, so the bulk of our logic is actually going to be in this class. We could separate the logic into different classes and stuff like that to break it down and make it more modular, but we're going to have a lot of it in this class just because this is where the conversation should be happening. Okay, so the purpose of this class will be to assign a certain trait to an NPC so that it's able to have conversations with you, as well as basically act as a container for the conversation that is being had. So it can keep track of who the NPC is talking to, as well as the conversation they've had, so all the messages sent between the two. And furthermore, it can listen for events, like I said, and it can perform other logic, like talk to the API of OpenAI and do stuff like that, okay? So enough said, you'll see more along the way, but that's what a trait is, and that's how we're going to use it within this project here, okay? So the first thing I want to do, I don't actually know if this is required, but I'm just going to do it anyway because I saw an example. So we're going to give our trait a trait name using this annotation here. And we're going to call it the convo trait. That's what the class is named anyway. And then what we have to do is give our trait a no args constructor. So public convo trait, and we need to call super and pass in the trait name, so convo trait. There we go. And furthermore, we forgot to do one thing. We need to do extends trait from citizens, which is an abstract class. There we go. So this is the most basic form of a trait within citizens. This is our own custom trait. And now we can add our own functionality onto it to make it do some cool stuff. So let's add some basic information that the trait is going to keep track of. So first of all, we're going to have the role of the NPC. So this is what they're pretending to be, what the AI should assume the character of. Furthermore, we're going to have who the NPC is talking to. So public player, and a real plugin that you actually distribute to people or run on a real server. You may want to actually store an UUID because a player can go offline at any point. But just for the sake of this example here, we're just going to store a player for simplicity. Okay. So who they're talking to. So let's change that to talking to. And then also let's have the actual conversation that is being had between the two people, the NPC and the player. So private string builder conversation is equal to new string builder. We're just going to initialize it right there. Boom. And there we go. So now the NPC will keep track of this information if it has this trait, okay? So let's go back to our summon NPC command now that we have this trait and actually add it to the NPC before we forget. So we're going to do npc.add trait, and you can provide either the .class so we can do what's called convo trait.class, or you can do new convo trait. It's up to you. We're doing new convo trait because in a second we're going to be adding another constructor here that will essentially override this one, and we also have to pass arguments to that constructor, so it will be impossible to do so unless there's an instance being created. So yeah, just trust me on this. We need to actually do new instead of convo trait.class, okay? But this will go ahead and create our NPC with this trait. So now it has this trait, it will spawn, and now we could do stuff with the NPC. And this is where we're defining that logic. So the first logic that we want to define is a simple event handler. So event handler. So we're going to call it public void start conversation. And this will be listening for the NPC right-click event. There we go. And so whenever this NPC is right-clicked, then this will be handled here. So what we want this to do is make it so that if a player right-clicks a NPC that has the convo trait, it will initiate a conversation with that NPC using artificial intelligence, right? And if there's already a conversation happening between this NPC and a different player, then it will tell them to wait and come back later or something like that. And then if they click it again and they're already talking to them, it'll say, I'm already talking to you, stuff like that, right? So it's as simple as that. So let's go ahead and code that. So if the first thing we want to do is see if the event.getNPC or e.getNPC, if it's not equal to the NPC that is currently this class here, that the trait is a part of, then we're just going to go ahead and return. So the reason I'm doing this is because convo trait can be applied to different NPCs. It's not just one at a time. So whenever this is triggered, it will be triggered for every NPC that has this trait. So that's why you want to check to see if the NPC that it has triggered this this handler is the one that is currently handling it. Okay, I think I said that right. So that's why we're doing that there. After that, let's just go and get the player that actually right-clicked the NPC. So player P is equal to e.getClicker. So now we'll do the main logic, which is saying who they're talking to, if they're talking to anyone already. So if this dot talking to is equal to null, this means that, talking to is equal to null. This means that the NPC is currently not talking to anybody. So we can go ahead and initialize a conversation with the NPC. So start a convo. Otherwise, we need to see who they're talking to. So if this dot talking to is equal to P, then we can go ahead and say you are already talking to this NPC. So I am already talking to you. Okay. Otherwise, this means that the NPC is already talking to someone else. So we can't interrupt their conversation. That's very rude. So first, what we want to do is see if the NPC is in range with that other person still. I'll explain this one in a second. And then after that, let's go ahead and say p.sendMessage. I am currently talking to someone else. Back off. So this comment here means, well, let's establish a rule, right? Whenever you're talking to an NPC in this plugin, you need to be within 20 blocks to talk to them, okay? If you're not within 20 blocks, then the conversation is cut off. So what we want to do is, if they right-click an NPC and the NPC is not talking to them currently, whoever they are talking to, let's see if they're in range with the NPC currently. If they're not in range for some reason, let's end the conversation with them and transfer it to this new person that just right-clicked the NPC. If they are in range, then do nothing, okay? So the way that we can do that is by doing if npc.getEntity, so the actual entity object of the NPC that we're working with here, .getLocation, .distance, and we want to calculate the distance between this location and the location of the person that the NPC is talking to. So this .talking to .getLocation, and then if it's greater than 20, then we can go ahead and assume they're out of range, right? So in that case, we're going to go ahead and say the Billy Bob NPC has stopped talking, the minor NPC has stopped talking to you because you moved too far away. So we'll start a convo with this person that just right-clicked it, and there we go. So that's all the logic we need for this event handler here. This will handle the NPC being interacted with to start new conversations. And now we need to create the logic for actually making the conversation happen between the NPC and the person in the game, okay? So let's go ahead and make this thing here, start a convo. We need to define a method within this trait that actually does that. So we're going to do private start conversation, private void start conversation. And we want to provide who we're starting the conversation with, so player P. And now we're going to do this dot talking to is equal to P, so that now the NPC is talking to that person. We're tracking that person. And then now we want to start a new conversation. So this dot conversation is equal to new string builder. And now we're going to do use AI to get a response. All right, so we'll do that in the future, but that will start the conversation. So now we'll do start conversation P, and then start conversation P. There we go. All right, so that is the event handler, and that is how you start a conversation. Now let's go ahead and create a listener here. So new Java class, let's say convo listener. So this event listener will be for whenever the player is talking in the game. So we need a way to track what they say to the NPC, intercept that, and then provide that to the artificial intelligence so that a response can be then gotten back, okay? So we want to do public void on chat message, and that's going to be an async player chat event. So async player chat event E. Okay, so this will be triggered whenever a player sends a message, right? So we want to see if that player who sent a message is currently talking to an NPC. If they are, then get the NPC that they're talking to, if there is one, right? And then add that to their conversation, and then get the response from the AI. And that's pretty much it. Otherwise, if they're not talking to anybody, then obviously do nothing. Let the message go through normally. So to see if the player is actually talking to an NPC, we're just going to go ahead and get all of the NPCs and then go through each of them and see if the NPC is currently talking to this player. The reason we're doing that is just because we can get all the NPCs pretty easily, and then that NPC, if it has the convo trait, already tracks who they're talking to, so we can do a simple comparison to see if they're talking to that player or not. Realistically, if your server has, a lot of NPCs, this may not be the most efficient approach, but generally speaking, it should be fine. You're not going to have that many NPCs, so I don't think the implementation matters too much. But yeah, so anyway, so for NPC, so this is an enhanced for loop. So NPC of citizens API dot get NPC registry dot sorted. So this will give you all the NPCs on the server currently. And the first thing we want to do a bunch of checks here just to make sure that we have the right stuff. Through trial and error, I found you'll get null exceptions and stuff like that if you don't check correctly. So the first thing we want to check to see if npc.getEntity is equal to null. This is actually possible. I don't know exactly how that's possible, but it is. So if the NPC has a null entity, go ahead and return. Otherwise, if the NPC does not have the trait, go ahead and return as well. So get trait nullable. So we're going to pass in convo trait dot class. So if the NPC does not have the convo trait, then obviously we don't want to deal with it either. So go ahead and return as well. So is equal to null. Continue. We're not going to return. We're going to continue because this is a loop. If we return, it's going to stop the whole method. If we continue, it's just going to skip this current iteration. Okay. So now that we know this NPC has an entity and then it has the trait, let's go ahead and get the trait so that we can grab the information from it. Okay. So we'll do var trait is equal to npc.getTrait nullable again, convo trait dot class, and now we have the trait. So since the trait tracks who the person is talking to, or who the NPC is talking to, we can grab it. And since this is a public method, we can just go ahead and easily do var talking to is equal to trait dot talking to. So this is the instance of the trait that is part of the NPC that we summoned earlier, and we're grabbing the information directly from it, which is pretty freaking cool. Furthermore, after that, we want to see if this talking to person is not equal to null. If it's not equal to null, then see if this is the person that just chatted in the chat. So we'll do that by doing if talking to is equal to null. If it's equal to null, or talking to equals and then e.getPlayer. If it's not the person that just sent the message, then you can return on those as well. So we are actually continue. For the same reason as above, this is not the right stuff, so we're going to continue so that we can look at the next NPC, okay? So at this point, we know that the NPC that we have gotten is the NPC that is having a conversation with this player. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and see if they are within range. If they're not within the range and they sent a message, then let's go ahead and end the conversation there. If they are within range, then we'll add that message that they sent into the conversation with the NPC and then get a response using AI, okay? So we'll say if npc.getEntity.getLocation.distance e.getPlayer.getLocation. If it's greater than 20, then we will end the conversation. So trait.stopConversation, which doesn't exist currently, but it will in a second when we create it. So Alt-Enter, create method. So to this, we're going to do this.talkingto is equal to null. And then this.talkingto .send message. We're going to send them a message telling them that the conversation has been ended, just so that they know. So we'll say you are no longer talking to the NPC. There we go. We need to do it like this though, because otherwise we'll get a null exception, right? So send the message, then set it to null, then go ahead and reset the conversation. So this dot conversation is equal to new string builder. Bada bing, bada boom. So now if we go back to our listener here that we were working on, we can go ahead and otherwise add on to the conversation that they're having. So this is where we actually start using the AI to have a conversation. So what we're going to do now is make it so that this playground template is able to do what we need it to do. So what we need it to do is pretend to be a character and then talk to you as if you are that character. Right now it's just having a conversation with you as an AI assistant, so you can ask it pretty much anything and talk about anything. What we want to do is make it talk about only a limited thing, which is Minecraft and the character what the character would say. So if you think about it, what would a miner say? Like a miner character in Minecraft, it would talk about mining, like diamonds and gold and where to find the diamonds and stuff like that. So we want to formulate it in such a way that it can do that, and then we can then use this view code feature to give us what we need, the parameters. So the temperature, max tokens, top P, frequency, all that stuff, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing I want to do is just go ahead and change this direction up here. So we want to change it to, I've already got like one set up, so I'm just going to paste it and I'll be right back. Here we go. So we've got the following is a conversation with an AI who represents a minor NPC character in Minecraft. The AI should limit his knowledge of the world to Minecraft and being a miner and try not to stray even if that's about something else. Play this miner role the best you can. So the way I formulated this is very purposeful. So first thing is it's having a conversation. So you're telling it that. Then you're telling it to represent a minor NPC in Minecraft as a character. Then, this is very important, I noticed that whenever I was talking to it, it would give me, you can ask it about, space and astrophysics, and it would keep talking to you about that. But if you tell it to limit the knowledge of the world of Minecraft and being that character, then it will not stray from that topic. It'll stay in that character. Because if you think about it, you don't have to add that requirement, but I think that just makes sense. Because when you're playing a game and you talk to an NPC, it should be pretty much just about that NPC's role, okay? And I just add this part to play it the best you can. But yeah, so now if we go ahead and change this here, if we just go ahead and get rid of this, we'll say, hello, who are you? And then let's see what happens from there. So we'll add this part, AI, submit. It'll add that. But hi there, I'm a miner in the world of Minecraft. I spend my days digging for resources, building structures, and exploring the world. How can I be of help? So we can say, I am looking for gold. Submit. Hey, gold, eh? You're in luck. I'm a gold specialist. I know all the best places to look for gold ore. If you need help finding it, I can point you in the right direction. So there we go. Now we're having a conversation with the AI. There's this weird issue here. Let me see how I can fix that. I think you can fix it by doing, just leaving it like that and then submit. Yeah, there we go. So hi. Boom. There we go. So that will fix that issue. But as you can see here, if you just change the directions at the beginning, you can then have the AI act in a certain way because it understands basic directions because it's a language model, right? So you have this other settings on the side for temperature. That's essentially the randomness, maximum length. That's self-explanatory, but we're just going to leave it at 150 because we don't really need it to go beyond that. We're just having a basic conversation. And also more tokens cost more. Next, we have the stop sequences. This is where the API will stop generating further tokens, as it says. So I would leave that how it is, not really mess with that too much. I think it's fine how it is. The top P, diversity, that controls diversity. The frequency penalty, stop. The frequency penalty is how you control, how you sort of make it so that it says not the same thing too many times. I'm going to leave it on the default. You could play with that if you want to, because it does tend to repeat itself sometimes if you test this out, but you can play with that. I'm not going to touch any of these really. Presence penalty, so how much to penalize new tokens based on whether they appear in the text so far. I think that's kind of similar. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm just reading. I'm just trying to show you what these are. Best of generates multiple completions server side, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that how it is. But anyway, so leave all these how it is, and then now what you can do is take the sample code here. So now we want to apply each of these settings to our code in our application. So we're not going to actually make a post request, if you even know what that is. What we're going to use is the Java library that I told you about before. So let's go ahead and do that now. So first things first, let's go to convo trait and make a new method. We're going to call it public void get response. Pass in the player that the response is going to be given to, as well as the message that the player sent. One second, my cat's walking in front of the thing. Get down, Dewey. Good boy. First things first is going to send an action bar to the player telling them that it's thinking so that you know something is happening behind the scenes. And it's also going to play a sound. I'm using Adventure library for this, so you can do plugin, Adventure, sender, send action bar, and just send what the action bar is made of. And then we're just playing a sound using basic bucket API. So obviously we need an instance of the plugin. So to that, we're going to go back up to the top. We're going to do private, the plugin name, so conversational plugin is equal to conversational.getPlugin conversational.class. So that's one way you can get an instance of the current plugin. We can make this final, by the way. Anyway, so we're gonna go back down here and now we can start doing our magic. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get the OpenAI service. So OpenAI service, service is equal to new OpenAI service. And the thing that you want to provide to this is the token that OpenAI provides you to be able to use their API. So click up here to the top right and then do view API keys. And if you don't have a key, then you need to create one here. It's pretty simple. This will allow you to use the API and it'll link it to your account. So I already have a key generated, so I just go ahead and copy that and paste it into my application. So I'm going to do that now. Boom, so that's my API key. Don't try that, it will not work for you. This is my personal API key. I will break it or remove it after this. I am done recording. So then we need a timeout. So the timeout is necessary because sometimes these requests can take a while. Just take a sec. So this is all running on, the way that bucket works is, hopefully you know this, everything is run on a single server thread essentially. And so whenever you run this code synchronously, it's going to happen on the server thread, and if you're doing that, it's going to pause everything else that's happening just by the way that threads work. And so if you're not running something asynchronously, it will pause execution of everything and lag the server, and it can even crash the server, which I found out. So with that said, you should set the timeout to 0, because if you don't, you'll get an exception. And otherwise, the request can take a long time and the server gets stall and crash, okay? So just do that. It was very important. I was running into issues and setting it to 0 fixed everything, okay? So the next thing we want to do is formulate our request. So completion request. We're using a completion request because we're using the OpenAI completion API. So completion request is equal to the completion request builder. So here we're going to put our settings that we have. So if we go back to the interwebs here, these are the settings that we're going to put into the code that we have, okay? So go ahead and take each one of these and just copy and paste it in. It's really that simple, okay? So I will do that and see you in 1 second. So here we go. This is what I've got. So we've got the completion request. The first thing is the prompt. So this will be the current conversation. So why I'm doing that is because every time we use this here, right, it's going to keep track of the current conversation. That way the AI knows the previous chat history and they can make a decision on what to say based on that. So every time that we send a completion request, we're going to include the whole conversation, okay, including the new message. So the new message will be added on before this is sent, and then it'll be sent in with the previous conversation history. The reason I'm sending it in will be clear in a second, so just ignore that for now. But anyway, so the model will be the latest one, davinci 3. There may be a newer one if you're watching this at a later time. Temperature, default, max tokens, 150 default. Everything else is default. I explained these already. The stop, human and AI, I set these to this. This is where, again, it tells it to stop. And then we're just building the request to finalize it and create the object. So after that, that should work, hopefully. If you did everything correctly, it should work, okay? So after that, we want to go ahead and get the response from the AI. So what is generated back from the API. So var choices is equal to service dot create completion, pass in your request, and then do get choices. This is what the API is giving you. This is what the AI is saying to you. And you can get multiple, it seems, so you just want to get the first one. So var response is equal to choices.get0.getText. So this should get exactly what the API said, what the AI said, and store it into a variable. And now what we're going to do is add that to the current conversation. So this.conversation.append response. And now we're just going to go ahead and send that to the player. So this.getNPC.getName. Boom. And then we'll say this the response. There we go. So hopefully what that should do, whenever this is called, we're going to pass in the player and the message that they sent. It's going to tell them that the AI is thinking. We're going to send a completion request to the OpenAI API. And then hopefully if we provided all the information correctly, we should get a AI response that makes sense. Okay, and we're going to send that back to the player. So now let's go ahead and call this somewhere. So back in our Convo listener, we're going to go ahead and do, well, first of all, we need to add the message to the Convo. And then now we can get the response as we just did. So It's important that you run this next piece of code asynchronously because, like I said before, it can take a while to actually complete. And also you don't want to pause the server thread just for a HTTP request. So you want to make sure that you run asynchronously so that it doesn't interrupt anything and it doesn't block anything. Okay. Now there's a few ways you can do this. You can use a bucket runnable. You can use an asynchronous thread, they're all the same thing, but there's different ways to do it, right? So the way that I want to do it is just by doing completable future dot run async. And then we're going to pass in a runnable. So boom, 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 boom. And now inside of here, we're going to call the method that we want to run asynchronously. So in this case, we want to do trait.getResponse, pass in the player, e.getPlayer, and then pass in the message that they've sent. So e.getMessage, okay? And then now that will run that piece of code, hopefully talk to the AI, and boom. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just do this part. So add the message to the convo. Now we could just make this public and add it to the conversation directly. I should make all these private, honestly. And what I should do is just make getters and setters, really. But yeah, for this one, it's private. I don't really know why I left these public. Make them private if you're actually doing this yourself. So since it's private, I'm just going to go ahead and add a simple method here. So public void add message, string message, this dot conversation dot append, and we're going to append it like this. So we're going to say human and then append the message and then append AI. Okay, so the reason that we're doing it like this is because through trial and error I found that for it to not mess up, you need to actually supply it in a certain way, and that's also due to the stop list. But essentially I'm setting it up in the same way that we have it here. So that we have human, we have the prompt, and they have AI, and then this is the space where the AI provides the information. So it's being set up the exact same way, okay? So that's why I'm doing it there. You can play around with it in different ways yourself as well. One reason I did this is because I had it as just human and then message and then no AI on the end. And what it did is it essentially took that, sometimes it would add more text from the human side of things. And that's because the AI part here wasn't present, and I think that's one of the stop things. So because it wasn't present, it kept adding stuff onto the human prompt, and I don't know, it was weird, but I just know that because I added AI onto the end of that, it started working, and it wouldn't add stuff onto the human, right? The human's text. So yeah, so whenever someone says something to the AI, like, hello, my name is Bob, sometimes it would say, hello, my name is Bob, I would like to find the diamonds, and then it would give an AI response after that, but it would add that part on before doing that, which is really weird, but that's what it would do, and that's why I have it like that, okay? But yeah, that will add a message, and so now back in our convo listener, we can do add message, and then e.getMessage, and there we go. And the last thing we need for this convo listener here, the very last piece of code we need here is actually to cancel the event. So e.set canceled to true. Boom. Now the reason I did this is because of the way that this works. So it's an async player chat event. So the way it works is you get someone send a message in chat, right? It triggers the listener, and then we handle it, right? So because this is running technically before the listener finishes, it would send the response back from the AI to chat before the person who sent the message actually had the message sent into chat. So the response would appear before the actual message that prompted the response. So what I did here is I canceled it so that the message would not be sent until this was done. And the way that I made it send when this is done is actually just by sending it manually here. So now we can do if player message is not equal to null, then we can do p.sendMessage u player message. And that's how I did that, and that's why we're providing it here, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Just the point is that we had to cancel the listener just so that the response is not sent before the message that prompted the response, okay? All right, now let's go ahead and finish our Convo Trait class just to get it over with. We are almost done with this plugin. It's really easy to use this API. And yeah, so the last thing we want to do is we had a little comment here that said to use AI to get a response. This is when you start the conversation. So we're just going to go ahead and do get response, pass in P, and then the string is going to be empty because we're not saying anything initially. We just want the AI to say something to us, okay? And the last thing that we want to do is add an initial piece of text to our string builder. So currently, when we use the AI and start the conversation, it's not going to have any initial text there. So it's just going to, I don't know what it's going to send back to us, but it's not going to have any of the stuff that we want. If you remember in the playground, we gave it these initial instructions here as well as an initial prompt. Right now, because there's nothing in the string builder, that's not going to be there, and therefore it's not going to perform how we want it to, okay? So we want to take this and implement it into our string builder as an initial value, so it does that, okay? So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go up here to the top, and I'm going to add a new field, so private string convo starter. It's actually going to be a constant, so private final string convo starter. And there we go, so here's the initial value for the constant. You could define it in your constructor if you want to. It's up to you how you want to do that. But here we go, we have all the text that we need. So this is the following is a conversation with an AI who represents a minor character in Minecraft or whatever role they provide, blah, 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 and add the human saying the initial thing as well as the AI part. And therefore, the AI will know the instructions as well as the initial prompt, so it says something back to the human, okay? So now we're just going to go ahead and supply the convo starter whenever we start a new conversation, okay? So if we go back down here to start conversation, we can provide that as an initial value. And one more thing that we have to do is actually set the role. We're never setting it anywhere. We're actually using it, but we're not setting it. And this is the most important thing because this is what the NPC uses to, this is the character that the NPC represents. So we're going to pass this in whenever we create the NPC, right? So the way that we're going to do that is create a new constructor. As I told you before, we're going to have it our own constructor. So public convo trait, and we're going to do string role, and this dot role is equal to role. And you actually are required to call the super constructor since it inherits from trait. So super convo trait, and then this dot role is equal to role. There we go. And you actually have to keep this one or it will not work. It requires a no args constructor. I've tried it, trust me, it does not work without it. So now let's go back to summon NPC command where we create our convo trait, or NPC rather, and let's pass that into our constructor, so the role. There we go. And so now whatever NPC is created should have that role set inside of the trait, and therefore it can be used whenever the conversation is happening. And that should be everything we need. If I did not miss anything, that should work perfectly. So whenever you call this, so let's just do a recap here. So whenever you run this command, it's going to create a new NPC with a name and a role. And then when you right click that NPC, it's going to start a conversation with them if it can, if there's no one else talking to them currently. And then it's going to use AI to get the responses back. So it's going to intercept any chat messages using the convo listener, and then send them to the AI, get responses back, and then send them to you and enable you to have a conversation with the AI, okay? So now let's go ahead and register all the listeners and commands, and we're going to test this out. One other thing that you actually have to register is the trait itself, so I forgot about that. So we'll do citizens API dot get trait factory, register trait info dot create convo trait dot class. Okay, there we go. So we've registered our command and our listener there. Let's go ahead and add our command here. So commands, summon NPC, description, summon a AI NPC. There we go. And now we should be able to now build this plugin. Should put it directly into our plugins folder. And let's go ahead and test it out to see what happens. And I will see you in 1 second. Okay, so it looks like I have an issue where it's not loading. And I investigated that, looked in the console, and it says citizens 2.0 not found or enabled. And I think that the issue is because we didn't have it added as a dependency in our plugin.yml. So let's see if that fixes it. So we'll say depend, and we'll say citizens. There we go. And now let's retry that and see if it works. All right, so reload, and hopefully it is working now. There we go. Now it's green, so that means that it has loaded successfully. So let's go ahead and try making our first NPC. So let's go over here and do that. So we'll do /summon NPC You have to give him a name, so we'll say Bob, and then we'll say he is a miner. That's the example I keep using, so we'll use that real quick. So miner. Looks like an internal error has occurred while attempting to perform this command. Okay, so scroll down. Cannot invoke string to lowercase because this dot role is null. Alright, looks like the role is null for some reason. Give me 1 second. Okay, so the issue is that it's actually kind of funny. I was being lazy. I should have initialized the combo starter within the constructor after the role is assigned, because the role, because it's actually using the role and doing to lowercase, and because at this point the role is not assigned whenever the class is initialized. This actually runs before the constructor does, right? So it's calling this dot role, which is null, and then to lowercase. So that creates a null exception. So what I want to do is take that and then put it there. So this dot that, and then we can go ahead and get rid of that. Boom, and then now we just have to add it here as well. So this dot, even though this is never going to run technically for us, we need to have it there because this is a constant. But anyway, that should fix it. Sorry about that. Oopsie daisies. All right, so let's try again. There we go. NPC created with name Bob and role miner. They will not have a conversation. They will not have conversations with you as a miner. And it gave us a nice skin, which is nice. I think it just applies the skin for whoever has this name in Minecraft. But yeah, let's right click it now. Thinking. Says you. Hi there. What can I do for you? Okay, so we said nothing, so it says that. It's not really supposed to do that, but I'm sure we could fix that. But it says, hi there, what can I do for you? We're saying, we'll say, looking for diamonds. There we go. So it says, looking for diamonds. Ah, diamonds. Those are the rarest ore in Minecraft. I can help you find them if you like. Where would you like to start looking? So as you can see, the AI started the conversation because we had that basically like a hidden message. So it says, hi there, what can I do for you? You, looking for diamonds. Ah, diamonds. So it's able to take what we... take the conversation that we are having with the AI, take the history, and then apply a new response to that, which we respond to, and then it responds back, blah, 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 back and forth. So it's really cool, right? Let's see, where would you like, let's ask it, tell me my options. So now it says, there are several ways you can find diamonds in Minecraft. You can mine in caves or ravines, search for exposed ore veins on the surface, or use an iron or diamond pickaxe to mine deep underground layers. Which of these options would you like to try? Ravines. Ravines are a great place to look for diamonds. They can be found in any biome, but the best place to search are in extreme hills. As you can see, the AI is very knowledgeable about Minecraft, even though we have not trained it ourselves, which is really cool about OpenAI. You don't have to do any training yourself. You could if you want to, but you don't have to. It's just basically trained on, as far as I know, it's based on text data from the internet. So it's just fed a bunch of data from the internet, and that's how it knows about Minecraft already. Pretty cool stuff, right? So now we can try different NPCs to make this even better. So we'll go over here, and it says you are no longer talking to the miner NPC because we are now 20 blocks away. So let's go ahead and create a new one. Let's create a new NPC. This one will give a different role. We'll give him the role of a shopkeeper. Okay. So now we'll start the conversation with him. Hi there, how can I help you? We'll say, I am looking for some goods to buy. Sure thing. What kind of goods are you looking for? I have a wide selection. Blah, 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 blah. What kind of weapons you got? I just kind of repeated a sentence twice, which is annoying, but I really like this because it's very powerful. It gives you a lot of unique responses. It doesn't usually do that. But again, if you play with it, I'm sure you can get a better result from that. But anyway, as you can see, it does... it's able to assume the role that you give it and have a conversation with you based on that role, which is very nice. So if we go ahead and do something like ask it something about astrophysics, it should not tell us based on the instructions. So tell me about astrophysics. So I'm sorry, but I'm not sure I can help with that. I'm a shopkeeper. My knowledge is limited to the items I have in my store. Is there something specific you need to purchase? Awesome, right? So it followed the instruction. It should not stray from the topic of Minecraft and its role. So very, very cool. And there we go. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We made a really cool plugin using OpenAI Artificial Intelligence, GPT-3, a bunch of cool words there. But yeah, we are able to basically put AI into our Minecraft plugin using OpenAI. They're easy to use API. enable us to have a conversation with the NPC in Minecraft, which is something that I've never seen before. I'm sure it's a thing that people have done before, but I've never seen it. I think it's really cool, and just imagine the possibilities that you could create with this sort of technology. So I hope you learned a lot from this. I hope you learned how to use OpenAI, Citizens. Hopefully you come up with some ideas for some plugins that you want to make using this technology, and I hope to see what you guys got. And that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching, and peace. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. In the description below, I'll leave a link to the code for this episode so you can check it out. You can bookmark it, come back to it later. If you forget any concepts or you just want to review the concepts I taught in this video, I'll mark everything up with comments so you can come back and read the code without having to rewatch the video, although your reviews are greatly appreciated. So yeah, I'll leave a link for that in the description below, so make sure to check it out. And another thing is I'll leave a link to our Discord server. It's a big community for programmers. You can ask for help on your programming projects if you're stuck on something, or maybe you can get some new friends. If you don't have any friends, there's lots of people here. It's growing really fast. You can find lots of people who are passionate about the same things as you. For example, if you like Minecraft Spigot development, you can find lots of people who like that. If you like C++, if you like Java, if you like web development, it's a really, really big programming community. So feel free to join. There's a link for that in the description below. And the last thing I want to tell you is that if you want to support this channel, you can click the join button below this video, and you can join this channel as a member for as low as 99 cents a month, and you can cancel at any time. You get some cool perks like early access to all of my new videos, a cool rank on my Discord server like you see right here on the side, YouTube members, and also you get to see yourself on the screen like you see right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. And thank you. Thanks a lot. And that's it. So if you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. And peace.